Hey, what's up, comrades? I don't know how this is recording. I see that it's recording something, so I'm going to keep going. Anyway, we finished our journey for now with the Saga, Tanya the Evil, as I finished the eighth audiobook, which is the 8th volume. Now, the light novel has I want to say at least 12 volumes, if not more. Probably 16. They usually go pretty long. The only light novels I ever bought were about the Spicy Wolf. At least the first one. I think there might be additional volumes, but this was several years ago. Wraps it up really nice and has an ending. So I assume that was it, but I know they got Spice and Book, and then I don't know if they're going to have, they maybe have a sequel, novel series, or original or maybe more. Anywho, I've enjoyed the ride. It is not my favorite thing. I like it when it's Tanya doing Tanya stuff and thinking, but the books generally, and I've mentioned this in previous reviews of the other light novels, when it leans into the side stories of other characters, particularly the enemy, I just don't find Colonel Drake or Mary Sue or any of these people interesting at all or compelling. It's just oh, we're doing these guys again. I'm not a big fan of multiple viewpoint stories in the first place. It takes a lot for me to care. My biggest problem with Game of Thrones, when I read the first book years ago before it was popular, was that I liked Sean Bean's character from the show, and I liked the dwarf, and everything else I read, I was so bored. It was hard. I really had to power through, and I considered just continuing. At some point, I was well, there's a whole bunch of these. There's at the time there was a sequel, a sequel book, and I was well, maybe I'll read it, but I'll just read the chapters with what's his name, not Targaryen. That's the other guys, Richard or something. I don't remember. Sean Bean's character from the show, and the dwarf character, who's a Targaryen. And I was meh. Lannister. That's his name. It's something Lannister. Yeah, I can't remember. Dad Lannister. But then when they killed him off in the first book, I was meh, I'm good. That's that. And that's kind of how I feel about this. It's someday I may take a gander and see if I can find the torrents for the rest of the audiobooks for the light novels for the Saga Tanya Evil. But it's kind of like watching the movie. I like this. I like the premise of it. I don't like it enough to where I'm going to exert a lot of effort in following up. And I'm glad I found the light novels and I read them. But at the same time, I don't care that much about them or the story to even care how it ends, because it just kind of drags on. And that's the story of the 8th volume. The 8th volume spends the entire time on the Eastern Front. And the thing I liked about the first couple of books was that they moved at a quick clip. Stuff was happening. They'd have adventures. Tanya would develop a little bit. But I feel for the last 2 or even 3 books, it's she's been a lieutenant colonel this whole time. They've really just been slow rolling this battle with the Federation. And nothing has really happened. I can sit here and be oh yeah, well, what's his name? Von Goffin or whatever came and he was hey, I'm going to change the Salamander Comp Gruffin to my name, and then but you're still going to be running it. And she's I don't get it. And he's it's to give it an air of legitimacy for the Italians, the Eldoa faction. And then there was some Eldoa stuff. That might even been the last book. This book, I almost feel nothing happened. It was just such a slow roll of nothing happening. And we spent a lot of time with Colonel Drake at one point, just being sad and drinking and stuff, and being, I don't know, I just didn't care for it one bit. The stuff again with everything with Tanya, and her crew, and sexy secretary Sigurdshoff and Cool Vance or Vice, and even the other nub who's grown on me, Gantz or whatever. I liked all that stuff. All that stuff was good. And then there's a whole chapter. Again, there's a whole chapter where it's the Federation point of view. There's 2 sections. I don't know if it's a whole chapter, but there's 2 large sections that are from that pervert guy's point of view, and then Lutzdorf. No, Lutzdorf would be good. I don't know, man. The commissar for internal affairs guy. He's there's a whole thing with him a couple times, and him just nothing happened, and him just hearing reports and making commentary, and it's what is the point of this? I don't care for this like one bit. And then they spend a lot of time with the Major General. I think that's Ludistor. I think that is him. Ludistor. Or no. It's Zoltaire. Zoltaire. Something like that. It's a Z one. Because remember, I don't know if that happened in the last. It might have happened this time. He wanted peace. They were like ahead and like, hey, let's just call it good, and we can keep some stuff, but we're not going to ask for like everything. And then like the popular people were like, no, and then he like lost it to like these diplomats and like yelled at them and told them they were killing people, and so he got like removed to go to the Eastern Front to have like, they didn't like fire him, but essentially his career's over and he's just going to hang out over there. But then when he gets there, he has like all these schemes. So he meets up with Tanya and is like, hey, I'm going to have you go to this place so you can purposely get encircled. And then once you're encircled, we're going to come rescue you. And I trust you because you're so good at everything that you're going to be able to like handle this. And she's like, okay, I don't like that, but I guess I have to do it because you're a Major General or Lieutenant. I think he's Lieutenant General, which is like the second highest. Like next is like General. So she goes, and then they like fight Russians, and they do stuff, and there's like some intrigue about that. And then he gets word that they're completely encircled and that there's movements against them, and so they go to like break it with like an armor division, which tanks. And then they're having struggles, and so he reaches out to Tanya and is like, now's the time to break the encirclement and come out. And so she breaks it, and then she gets to do like a fight with Mary Sue and Colonel Drake a little bit, but she doesn't know who they are, even though they know her. And there's a whole thing with Mary Sue like disobeying orders essentially to like go fight Tanya, and then she gets beat anyway. And then Tanya's like, man, that chick was like pretty rough. That's pretty rough shit. But then they rescue the general and defeat like a bunch of guys. But then there's like a whole offensive that happened in the background. It was like the Aurora offensive or something like that. And they talk about how that was a failure because they were supposed to break through like Stalingrad and get like capture all the southern cities, but like that didn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out. And so it's like all this was for naught, and they're kind of sad about that. We also get some like weird thing at the beginning where it's like this news, like Colonel Drake, and this is one of the parts where we spent a lot of time with Colonel Drake. He's like talking to like a news reporter friend of his, and he's like retired after the war, and they're talking about the general's like offensive and how like it was like a horrible thing and it caused all this death, and like it was like a nightmare, but that like it didn't work out for him. And then I thought it was going to be more drastic, but it was like not drastic at all. So that was kind of an interesting choice in my opinion. Anyway, so that's Saga Tanya the Evil 8. We're still in the Federation. I'm assuming Volume 9 also deals with this. Maybe it finally wraps it up. I'm assuming at some point they get nukes because the Japanese nuclear weapons are. That's like a sensitive subject. like it's brought up a lot for shock value for them, and then we're just getting on the other side as being like, yeah, nukes are awesome. We totally killed the Jap. Oh right. Oh, that's right. We did that to them. Ruh-roh. Anyway, that kind of wraps it up. I liked it generally. If you get a chance to read it, you like war stuff, I'd say it's fantastic. Like I've got some buddies. If I can convince them to read a story about a little girl who's like a colonel in the army in the German in like a alt history, I think they would love it because they love this kind of shit, like Her Majesty's Dragons and stuff like that. But for me, it was just kind of very meh. Not very mad. It was good, but it was, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'd ever read more. I might, just because I'm like invested and curious where it goes. But I listen to this thing where like, I only listen to this when I'm like doing other stuff. And sometimes I like check out and I come back and I'm like, what are they doing? Yeah, I don't care. So yeah, there you go. Cool. Catch y'all later.